What is up, everyone? Welcome back or welcome. This is Bitch Bet Podcast, and I am your host, April. I hope everyone enjoyed their holidays and spent it however you wanted. I also hope that everyone is enjoying the downtime between the holidays. I have my own gift to you all. We have another special guest on the podcast. She is the big sister that I needed, and I was definitely the little sister she never wanted, at least when we were younger. I would like to welcome my beautiful cousin Amanda to the podcast today. Amanda, welcome to Bitch Bat Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. I feel super honored to be here. I'm so proud of you for doing this.
Aw, thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. I always kind of wanted you on when I first started thinking about the different people that I wanted as a guest for the podcast, and you were always at the top of the list.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So when I was thinking of an introduction for you, I ended up coming up with the line of you being the bigger sister that I needed, and I was one you didn't want because I feel like that was so true for us when we were kids.
I did not like you. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad about it now, but I couldn't have put it better. The little sister I never wanted but needed.
Yeah, because I definitely feel like you hated me at least when we were kids.
Hate's a strong word. I wouldn't use hate. I would use like
A
extremely
strong dislike.
annoyed, strong dislike, forced to play with, even though you were mean. And we have an age gap, so you know.
Okay, I wouldn't say that I was mean. I finally got the opportunity to play what I wanted to play and with me being the youngest all the time, I never really got to have my way. So when I got to go over to your house and I got to hang out with another girl, I finally felt like I could just play games that I wanted to play and do things that I wanted to do. So I was just seizing the opportunity that I had. But I make no apologies for that little girl. She did her best with what she was given.
Don't get me wrong, I had fun as a kid, but I'd be like, "Mom, they're coming over again? Does she have to come over again?" "Yes, honey, because her parents are out of town, so she's coming over." And now I look at you more as like a sister and like a friend. Like I can talk to you about things that some people don't even know about. It's just crazy how far we've came in life and how that dynamic between us, definitely like with age and time as we became adults, like really changed. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I'm thankful for it too because it was definitely a shift that I'm so grateful for that happened because you're easily one of my favorite relationships that I have, and I love talking to you and I love to hear about your life and stuff like that. So, when did you notice the shift in our own relationship?
I wanna say it was probably when you were coming into, like, middle school, into high school, like, when you were really coming of age, maybe, like, even puberty, like, just like us, I think maybe having more things in common, and we were like into the same type of music and same type of books and movies, and I would pick you up and we'd go to the mall. So I want to say like high school, and I was obviously in my early 20s then. And I remember when I was younger thinking, I wonder when she grows up if we're going to go to the clubs together. Like, I wonder when she's 21, am I going to be too old and married with kids? Or are we going to be out partying? And we were out partying as soon as you turned 18.
Hell yeah, we were, and we definitely got sent to the principal office, but it was a fun time. Yeah, we definitely bonded over books, and because my friends at the time, like I think they read, but they definitely weren't reading the things that I was reading, so I never really had anybody to talk about what I was reading with too. And then you we ended up figuring out that we both liked books and you liked the same type of books that I did. So I was like, cool. So we started talking about it, and you would recommend books to me, and I would recommend books to you. And we used to go out and see the movies about the books that we would read, and it was just so much fun. And I'm sad that we don't have those cousin days anymore.
Yeah, the movie dates I really miss. Like you said, we bonded so much over that, and I grew up watching my mom read a book, so I was always a big reader. And like you said, none of my friends read either. They'd make fun of me, like, "You're gonna stay in and read a book?" Yeah, I am with my dog and relax. And now as a married woman, as an adult, I'm still doing the same thing. And I remember we would see the movies, we would go out, like you said, we would have dinner, and it was like the best time. It sucks now that we live so far away, but
Yeah, it was funny when you were watching It Ends With Us, and I saw it on Instagram, and I saw you were watching it with another friend, and I looked over at my husband and I was like, she's replacing me, and it's with another A name. Like, this used to be our thing, and I was just getting so upset. I was like, how dare you?
If it helps, I've also known that person since middle school, so she's not brand new.
Fine, fine.
It's so it's so funny that you mentioned that because I thought about you as well. I was like, because we remember we did our Nicholas Sparks era together. We did
Hmm.
a lot of the books. We would both read them. I think sometimes we even borrowed, and then we would watch the movie most of the time when it came out, or we watch it separately, then we would talk about it, and I when the It Ends With Us came out, I thought about it, and I was like, "Oh, April, where are you?"
Home,
Out
out
of
of
state,
state. Yeah.
asleep.
All true things. I still haven't watched It Ends With Us. I've heard it was really good, but I just haven't found myself watching it yet. I heard it was good, but I'll end up finding some time to watch it because I believe it's on Netflix now, so I'll end up watching it.
It's a really good movie, and then, like, if you know about the author, you know she is very well liked and not liked because of certain topics that she has also covered in her book. She's very controversial. But the movie does the book justice. I don't think there's a need for a second movie because the second book wasn't as good, but the movie, if you liked the book, you will, I think, love the movie.
Yeah, I did like the book. I have the second book, but I haven't read it yet. But one of the other books by her that I really like is Confess.
I haven't read that one. Recently I just read Verity. I don't know if you read Verity.
I think I have that book, but I haven't read it yet.
Oh my God, so good. And then Hopeless.
I'm not sure if I have Hopeless or not.
And what's the other one? It has a blue cover. I think it's Ugly Love.
Ooh, Ugly Love was really good, and I also liked Reminders of Him.
That one was really good. That's a tearjerker at some points.
Yeah, it was, and I wasn't expecting it, but it was still such a very good book. But something I've also always loved about our relationship, and even like when I was younger and as I got older, like I've always just kind of looked up to you, even though I'm taller than you.
Okay, like by a few inches.
But yet, for whatever reason, I still have to move my seat forward when I drive your car.
I swear it's in the torso or it's in the legs or something. I think I have long legs and you have a longer torso. I don't know what it is because you are taller than me, but you can't reach my pedals. Make it make sense.
Yeah, I think you definitely might have longer legs than I do. But speaking of body proportions, and this is a funny little side tangent, but I finally ended up deciding to buy dude jeans because I was sick and tired of not having any pockets, so I ended up switching over to dude jeans.
Oh, I hear a lot of women say this.
Yeah, and they're really good and I like them. So I was out shopping for dude jeans and I was getting like the measurements and I tried them all on and then I came home and I was showing my husband and he was asking me about like the different sizes and stuff and I told him like the leg length size and he was like, "Oh, like that's the same leg length that I have."
What?
Yeah, so we have the same leg length, which is funny. And so I was like, hold up, stand up. And so we stood up and we went hip to hip. And sure as shit, we have the exact same leg length. But my body type, I am all legs and a small torso, whereas his body type, he's all torso, but has shorter legs, even though he's ginormous.
See, it is a thing.
It's 100% a thing.
That is wild when you think about it because I'm thinking of his dimensions. Obviously, I've seen him in person and you're tiny and he's so like tall and ogre. And I'm like, how? Make it make sense because, he's long.
Yeah, his back is so long. I sometimes like just it feels like it's always like going on. I'm like scratching or like rubbing his back or something. It just keeps going.
There's no ending. Back to butt to leg.
For real. Just straight down. Ah, so funny. Anyway, back to the conversation. So aside like looking up to you, but one of the reasons I kind of felt like I could always look up to you was just how effortless, at least to me, it seemed like you just made friends so easily, and you always had like a bunch of friends. And anytime I came over to your house, like sometimes your friends were over, and it just seemed like you always had friends around you, and um it just seemed like it was a natural quality you had, whereas I felt like I always kind of struggled to make friends, and then you just made it look so easy.
It's nice, but it's exhausting. And then sometimes they get jealous of each other, or like, oh, you went here, but you didn't invite me. Well, I didn't realize I had to invite you everywhere. It's so crazy that you say that because my whole life it was very hard for me to make friends. I always got along better like with boys, even in grade school, you know what I mean? I was never tomboyish. I am very girly girl, but I would just get along with guys a lot better than I would with girls. And it's one thing about me is I'm not a good initiator in conversation. Like I can't small talk with women. I can't talk to you about the weather or oh you dyed your hair. I like the color. Oh you cut it. Like I can't do that. So for a long time I struggled with it and I really think my first job opened up like that window for me because you had to deal with customers. I worked in retail. You had to deal with customers and you were face to face with a bunch of people every day. And I think it helped me work on my communication skills because that point forward, I think that's where I gained a lot of my friends. And a lot of my friendships, did not start out on the best terms. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they started off by not liking me. But once they, got through my barrier and were like, hey, this girl's pretty great, we became a lot of friends. And then the older I got, I just learned to conversate because I think that was a lot of the things is I would sit in front of someone, but I again had nothing to say. So I'm very grateful for the friends that I have, and a lot of them, two of them I've had since basically elementary school and middle school, and that's I feel is very rare nowadays. So
Yeah, it definitely is rare, especially for like women friendships, because like male friendships or men friendships, like they will make a friend in kindergarten and that will just be their best friend until they end up dying like their 80s or 90s. Whereas women, we kind of have friendships that kind of last some time, but after a while, like something ends up happening and the friendship ends up disappearing or there's a falling out or something. So yeah, the fact that you can say that you had friends since like middle school and high school is like so unique and such a testament to just who you are and how you just can maintain all those friendships. And men, I feel like they will also just hold on to a friendship even if it's not good for them or even if like they're not a good person and they're just like, well, I've known him forever, so I'm just gonna keep him around. I'm like, nah, just cut that shit, you know?
that's so true. I'm like, why can't you just cut this person loose? But it's funny that you say that about friends too, because I was thinking like it's so many of my friends that met you, like when we were hanging out and doing our Cousins Day, they really incorporated you into their life too. Like you have them on your Instagram now, or we've all gone out in groups together, and like I love that they included you as well, and like you got to know them.
Yeah, like your friends really just like made me feel like a part of the group and it's so interesting cuz I'm not a girly girl. I was always very much a tomboy and so I always just found it hard to make friends with women and like my best friend as a child was a boy and as I got older I was like okay like I need to start making these friendships and so I'm normally not very comfortable like going out and being around like a bunch of people but when I started going out with you and your friends when we got older and we started hitting the clubs and college nights and Thirsty Thursdays and Halloween's like I really felt like I can open myself up a little bit faster around them because I was like well, they're Amanda's friends, so like obviously they're not horrible and they're gonna treat me good.
And you know what? I'm so surprised we didn't bond sooner when we were younger. As we said, like our relationship got established a little bit older. Because we were the only two girls. Like we would go to the river or the
Mm-hmm.
or wherever, it would just be me and you around a bunch of loving men. And it's like I was like, get this girl away from me. Like, where are the guys at? And it's so weird because you would think I would have been automatically drawn to you, you know what I mean? But being a child is so different. But crazy. And I'm very thankful for how far our relationship has came. Because, like, even on my other side of the family, there's no women.
Oh shit, really?
So, no.
That's crazy. I had no idea that you were the only girl for the other side of the family. And like I said earlier, I always felt like I struggled like making friends just because I never really knew um if they would like me or anything like that and I never really knew how to like present myself and it was just kind of a struggle for me to figure out navigating the world of friendships. But as we got older and our friendship really started to develop and our relationships started to grow, and I felt like I can really be myself around you. And I would almost say that you were kind of the first person that I decided like, oh, I can be myself around my cousin because she's family and it was just really nice to feel like I finally had someone I could just be myself with and uh, enjoy my time with you.
I'm glad you feel that way. I think that's why I have such a big friend group. Like, I have friends that are like from elementary school and middle school and high school and coworkers, and not a lot of my other friends have that relationship. So for you to say you feel comfortable around me and like you're kind of like at home and you can be yourself, like I love that because I wouldn't want someone to feel any other way. And I'm glad that our relationship definitely has gone the route it has gone over all these years. I mean, look how involved you were in my wedding.
Yeah, I feel like I should have been a little bit more involved in the reception, but I was very hands on at the wedding. But the reception, I kind of slipped because I was like, oh, she'll let me know when she needs me, and you just didn't need me.
I feel the drugs took over.
But I can't even remember if I ended up taking an edible for your wedding or not, because I had to get on the plane, so I wasn't sure if I'd be able to make that work. But yeah, your wedding was a really fun time, and something that I've also really enjoyed and noticed about the both of us is we both have the ability to check a bitch, and which I kind of enjoy about us, especially probably because it could be because we grew up with so many men around us, but we don't take shit.
I definitely am. I'm definitely very protective and very territorial. Not to get confused like with being jealous, but I protect
There's a
like
difference.
as yeah, there is a big difference and people don't understand that. I as my coworker says it best, like I protect my blessings. I protect people close to me, to my husband, to my family. And it's like you're not gonna talk to me a certain way, you're not gonna talk to them a certain way. But and definitely with age, the older that I've gotten, I just don't have the energy for it no more. I'm like, "Okay, you know what?" As my brother says, "Amanda, you've gone soft." And maybe I have, because sometimes it just takes too much energy. I have friends nowadays where we hang out and they are just super petty, and I'm like, I just don't even wanna acknowledge it with a response because I just don't have the time for it. But the pit bull's still there, and she will, as you know, will come out, but
I think what it also might be is just now you're around a bunch of people that know not to make the pit bull come out because even though, as your brother says, you've gone soft, it's still not the pit bull's not far away. So it could definitely just be you have people around you that know okay, like we don't need to push Amanda to bring that pit bull out.
don't trust me.
Yeah, exactly. And because I feel like that's kind of similar to what I or the friends I made up here where they know they don't want to make me bring out the Doberman because, well, you're a pit bull. I'm very much Doberman. And me and my husband kind of fought on what kind of dog I would be because I always thought I was a German Shepherd. But he was like, no, I'm a German Shepherd because I'm goofy. But I will always end up protecting like the family, whereas you're a Doberman because you're always ready to fight.
You don't wanna be on the opposite side for sure. And imagine both of us together. I think I forgot where we were at. There was some type of event where I think someone was jokingly talking like shit, and we both kind of were going at them. And then I think it might have been like at one of your parties at your dad's house. And I think the person was like, fuck. And we're like, yeah, don't test us. Cause we were both like coming back and forth. I can't remember who it was. It might have been like one of your dad's friends or someone just being like condescending. And we were like, what?
Oh my god, I don't remember this at all because I'm kind of sad I don't remember this because that sounds like it would have been a fun time where we both were just like, the fuck you talking about?
Yeah. And it wasn't like anything crazy, but it was something like they had made a comment and we both were kind of like, what? Like, and my dad was like, okay. Do you remember one time when we went out to like a club or bar and the guy had like, have you met Ted? You?
Oh my god. Oh yeah, it was the first Halloween that we went out together.
Yes, it was Halloween.
Yeah, you were the thug Hello Kitty and I was like a Greek goddess, right?
Yeah, it was a Hello Kitty. I was like, it was either that or the pirate, but that was one of our first times going out. And I remember that. I was like, oh God, this guy's a creep.
Yeah, I'm still so mad that I didn't like clock it right when it was happening. It wasn't until after we turned around and walked away and I was like, Amanda, he just have you met Ted me." And you're like, "What does that even mean?" And I was like, "Have you never seen How I Met Your Mother?" And you're like, "No." And so for anybody that has not seen the show, how this works is there was just a guy named Barney. He was one of the cast members, and or one of the characters on the show, and he was a womanizer. He was always looking to pick up girls. He had a playbook of all the plays that he would use to pick up women. And there was Ted, and he always wanted to be Ted's ultimate wingman. And so what Barney would do is he would walk over to some random women at the bar, and he would just tap her on the shoulder and go, "Have you met Ted?" And then he would point her in the direction of Ted.
That's exactly how it happened too.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And but the guy's name wasn't Ted, which is why I didn't like register in my brain that that's the move that they used on me until after I walked away. But I almost want to say that the guy that was doing the picking up or like was doing like the line, like, "Have you met Ted?" was actually cuter than the guy.
I remember that. And then I remember I was watching the show afterwards and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is such a loser. If you're listening, I apologize.
Yeah, I remember that night. That was one of our first times where we went out just the two of us, and I got hit on so much that night, and it was my first time really like getting hit on like that, and I was so confused, and I was like, Amanda, I don't know what to do. Help me.
April, just breathe and accept it. Just take the free drinks, take whatever they're offering. Wait, no, that's bad advice. Do not take drinks from men. If you don't see where it comes from, do not take the drink.
I 100% agree. Don't take those drinks. Do you remember we went out a different time, and I think it was more of my group of friends, and then you and a couple of your friends ended up coming with, and we were in this big group, and we were dancing, and this guy who was, I guess, kind of in the friend group just came up and like, and he like stroked the side of my face.
I remember it was at the same place, was it not?
Yeah, it was at the same place.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think our eyes got all big. We were like, dude.
Yeah, I remember looking at you and just stared at you, and you're like, just come here, and you like just shoved me over to your side.
Like, Amanda, he just caressed me.
He fucking did.
Good times, dude. Good times.
We had the best times together. That also reminds me of when we were in downtown, and I think like you and one of your friends had like either like gone to a bathroom, like gone to the bathroom, or like gone to like get something else to drink, and we found like the spot that you liked, and so you're like, I'm gonna go off, and you just stand here and like mind the spot. So that's what I was doing, and I was just there minding my own business, wasn't really talking to anybody, and the security guard that was working that night ended up just randomly coming up to me and was like, you need to smile more. And I looked and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, you need to smile. And you came back and I told you, you're like, what?
Oh my God, I remember this story. We did, I think me and my friend, we went to the restroom. We left you there watching our drinks. Because you know me, as soon as I start drinking, I have to pee all the time. So we left
Yeah.
you, and I remember when you came back, you told us, and I was like, "What?" And I remember exactly what he looked like too, like slick back hair, ponytail,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's exactly what he fucking looked like.
Oh wow, I forget about all these things like that we've done or that happened when we were out, and we would just laugh about it like crazy.
Yeah, I always enjoyed us going out because we had some great times, and something I always just enjoyed about us going out was I knew if anything ever ended up going sideways, I have your back and you have mine, and that's just we just had the understanding about each other. So you brought up something earlier about territorial and jealousy, and it reminds me of this story that my husband and our girlfriend, they always like to say that I was jealous in this situation, but I was like, I'm not jealous because jealousy is wanting something that you don't have. I have my husband. He's mine. It's a done deal. So I'm not jealous of anything of any other woman trying to talk to him. But if they are trying to move in on my territory, that's where I'm gonna have a problem. So we were long distance at the time, and I was calling him for something, but I called him, and when he answered, before I even heard him say hello, all I heard was a woman, and some woman, she was like, oh, where's your dog? And without missing a beat, I went, who the fuck is that?
That's the appropriate answer.
Thank you. And I was playing through the car speakers in his car, so she most likely obviously heard what I had said. And so my husband was like, you need to calm down, like I'm just in the drive-through at this at McDonald's. And I was like, well, why is she asking about your dog?
How do you know he has a dog?
That's
Don't
what
worry
I
about
said.
what his dog said. Don't
That's
worry about
exactly
the
what
dog
I
said.
said. And he was like, I came in through the drive-through with our dog the other day, and we got him some chicken nuggets. And I was like, okay, whatever. But like, he kept trying to say I was jealous. I was like, I'm not jealous, but I don't need to hear some random fucking woman coming on the phone when I'm calling my husband.
Yeah, so am I. This another good example too, like with me and my husband. My husband was raised by a single mom, so he's very friendly. He's very gentleman-like. always opens my door, always opens the car door, anything.
As
Like
he
he's
should.
great at that, as he should. And I will always commend him for doing things like that. I always walk first. Like even when we are on the street walking, he will move me from the sidewalk to the opposite side so he can be on the street side. And not everybody does that or recognizes that.
Hmm.
So we were walking through, I think it was like a restaurant door or something, and like a couple people had already gone by, and I was like, "Babe, drop the door. I'm already inside. You can hold the door open with your back hand and let them walk behind you, but you don't need to stand there and open it. Let that shit fall. Like I'm already inside.
Yeah, like let some other man hold the door open for his woman. Like he doesn't need to be doing that all the time for everybody.
I don't care if she's handicapped. Let it fall." I'm just kidding. No, I'm not.
She got a buffer. It'll be okay. Something else that I've really enjoyed, and I've noticed like about our friendship and our relationship is like there's never any competition between the two of us, and it's always just nice to just open up to you about things that like I'm kind of dealing with, and I feel like you can also like open up to me about things that you wouldn't tell some of your other friends.
Oh, yeah, there's things about me that you know that almost no one knows about, or even when my husband and I now, when we had our condo before, like you came over like that same day and you helped me like unbaby proof the house because the previous tenants had, the whole house baby proofed. And you're like, Amanda, I got this. Like, and
Yeah,
we
I was
just
your
became,
handyman.
yeah, we just became so close.
Yeah, and I think I also like dislodged a toy from like that was jammed in the dishwasher or something.
I was like, this kid was a monster. That's why the whole house was baby proofed. I couldn't even imagine what that kid was like.
I miss when you're living over there. I would just come over like all the. I wouldn't say all the time, but I was definitely over there more when you lived over there, and it was so nice. It was such a short drive.
It was like a 5-minute drive, if that, like a 2-minute drive. Yeah, it was so convenient.
Yeah, just like right down the street. And then, of course, right as I move out of state, you move right back to my hometown, and we could have been close again, but then I just left.
It wasn't by choice. You can blame that on COVID and everybody else in the housing market because we ended up right in the same city as we were before. So, in a much, much better, beautiful place.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you were able to end up getting a house. And as much as I hate that I'm missing a lot of like the family event stuff that my dad ends up having at his house, I'm glad that you get to experience that with all the family. And my dad loves throwing parties, and he's really such a good host.
He really is. I have to give him credit for it. And he always includes people, and he's always like, ever since I was a child, the more the merrier. Whoever you want to bring, the more the merrier. Like I brought
Hmm.
in friends there, I brought in boyfriends there. Always like, yeah, anybody you want to bring, they're invited. He even went as far as to include my mom.
Yeah.
Obviously, after my dad and her divorce, very young, and he was always come over with the kids. Um, you know, so it was just he is like that, and people did flock to you guys' house. You guys were like the it house. Garage always open, cars always packed in the driveway. He always had a garage fridge.
Yeah, we never used our front door. Like our front door was the garage door, and it was so. Anytime we'd have parties, the garage would always be open. People would just come in through the garage. I remember when I would start having friends over, and I would like be hosting like just like small get-togethers, and then my dad would come home, and he would like, "Are you thirsty? Are you hungry? Do you need anything?" And I'm just like, "Dude, like it's my turn.
My turn, Dad.
Yeah, like I got this. Like they're my friends. Let me host." And even if we were out in the backyard on the spa, he would end up coming out like, "Is everybody okay? Anybody need anything? You need something to drink? You guys getting hungry? I'll make you something." And I'm like, "Dad, dude, I got it."
That's so him too.
Yeah, but I think that's just something about him where he just always likes people in his house to feel welcome and feel comfortable, and he just always wants to make sure that nobody's wanting anything that he can't provide. But yeah, I'm still sure that even now with me not being there, everybody's still just coming in through the garage.
100% is. And now that you guys have there's that big dog at the house, when we come in, he barks a little bit because before the dogs weren't like that. But this dog, he kind of was like, okay, I'm like, should I still go through the garage? Because I might get attacked. Although he's super friendly and super old now. You know what I mean? But yeah, still the same way. Everybody come in right through the garage, right into the kitchen, right into the backyard.
Yeah.
It has not changed.
Something else that you mentioned a bit earlier about how you can't do small talk. I can small talk, but I don't really like to do it. I'm more of just Like if I'm talking to you, I want it to be like a substantial or like a conversation that like goes deeper than just small talk. So I really just I hate small talking. I'll do it if I have to, but I'd rather not.
It was so bad to where, like, back in the day when I used to online date or whatever, in my profile, it was like, "I do not small talk. Do not ask me about the weather. Just don't go there because 'cause I'm not good at it, and shit's gonna get awkward real quick."
That's amazing. That's how you do it, honestly. And probably I should have done it too. But um I wasn't on the apps all that much, and I ended up meeting the infamous fuckboy through the app. But I was in that situation so much longer than I needed to be, because it was I think it was like after our third hangout or something. He like kind of told me what he wanted and kind of showed me a bit of his true colors for a little bit, and I should have just cut it off right there, but I didn't, and I ended up like hanging around him for like another 2 months, and it was just I should have cut it loose when I did, but it is what it is.
And sometimes you need to. That's part of the learning experience and part about finding out, like, who you are and what you want, and sometimes you gotta get treated like shit to be like, "Oh, I'm good, bro. I'm good."
Yeah, exactly. And then I ended up just deleting all the apps entirely and just getting rid of them completely. And then I ended up reconnecting with my husband, and the rest is history.
And now you guys are married.
And now we're married, which is also something that we have in common. Like we're both married now, and which is crazy sometimes for me to think about or like realize that I'm now a wife. Like I'm married to somebody.
It's weird too, because even when, like, people see us in public and they see, like, our rings and stuff, like my husband's and my ring, they're like, "You guys are married?" Like, talking to us like we're 19-year-olds, and obviously we're not. We're in our early 30s, and I don't think that we look old or anything like that.
You definitely don't, which is why they could be thinking you're 19 because you look so young.
They're just baffled, like, "You guys are married?" And maybe that's because no one nowadays is really getting married, because none of my friends are married. I think I have one couple friend that's married, and it's just crazy. I'm like, can someone get married? Because I would like to go to a wedding. I would like to party. Invite me, please. You
Right.
guys came to my wedding.
Right? Like, can someone else host the party and I can just come and have a good time?
I'm a good gifter.
You're a very good gifter. You and my husband both. You're very good gift givers, and why I feel like I suck at it. I'm the type of person that I prefer someone to just give me cash or gift cards, and I can just go buy what I want, and I'm perfectly content with that.
And cash is always good.
Yeah, like I don't feel like cash is a bad gift. Like my dad ended up sending me some money for my birthday earlier this year, and I went out and I used it to buy another bookshelf. And my husband ended up getting me a blanket, or he ended up getting me a comfy chair so I could read in the office with him. And then I had a little bit of money left over, so I used it to buy a blanket.
Yeah, because you're a cold bitch, so you always need a
I
blankie.
always need a fucking blanket, but I love those two gifts that my dad ended up getting for me. Anyway, so growing up, what's something that you noticed about your parents' marriage?
So my parents, they got divorced when I was really early, maybe when I was really young, maybe around 4 or 5. And those people are two people that definitely did not need to be married. They were ones that were like, okay, you know what? Yes, you should be divorced. So my dad was a truck driver, and then my mom was like the single mom. She would go to work all day. She had an office job, a really good office job. So she would drop us off at my grandma's. My grandma would take us to and from school, would feed us, and she would go to work and come back at night and pick us up. And that was basically all I knew about that type of adult, like, marriage life, because my dad was like the absent father. He wasn't there. It wasn't until I think I was like in my later teens, like early 20s, did we kind of rekindle our relationship. And he was always there. He would come and drive in and, take us to dinner like once a month, but he didn't go to my prom. He didn't show up for my graduation. So their example of marriage was really shitty. I had a great childhood, although it doesn't sound like it. Um, they were my example. Now, if you want to ask me about my grandparents, my grandma on my mother's side, she met my papa when she was like 13 and he was 16. And we're talking like old school back in the day, like Michigan, like where you would ride your bike and pick a girl up on her handlebars. Movies were like 10 cents type of
Uh,
thing. He used to pass her house on the bike, and he was like, told her dad, yeah, one day I'm going to marry your daughter. And her dad was like, that's not going to happen. And then, when she became of age, a couple years later, they got married when she was 18. And they were together up until he passed away, 50 something years later.
oh my gosh, how have I never heard this story? That is so fucking cute. And I can't believe I never heard the story. That is so adorable.
Yes, they have a great story. So, a beautiful story, and it's sad because, he's been gone for, like, I think maybe 12 years now, and she's lived this whole time, without him. So I grew up thinking, "Okay, I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. Like, I'm gonna marry my brother's friend."
Oh my God, you're living my favorite trope, the brother's best friend.
It wasn't always fun, but I lived it, and now we're married. So, um, I just think marriage is very sacred, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, and you have to be compatible, and you have to be willing to be like a partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. And hearing your grandparent story on your mom's side reminds me of our grandparent stories on our dad's side because our dads are our brothers. And I think they have such a great story. I'm sure you've heard it, but I'm just gonna tell it for everybody that's listening. So my grandparents, they met at a roller like the local roller skating rink, and my our grandpa was there with his best friend, and our grandma was there with her girlfriends, and my our grandpa noticed our grandma skating on the rink and just looked at her and then looked over at his best friend and was like, I'm gonna marry that girl one day. And his best friend ended up looking over and telling him, okay, well, if you end up doing that, I'll pay for the marriage certificate. And they were both true to their words. They ended up getting married, and his best friend ended up paying for the marriage certificate. Um, and they were married like 40 plus years. Like, I've always admired their relationship. I always loved hearing their stories. And also to your grandparents on your mom's side, like you said her husband had ended up dying like 12 years ago, and our grandma ended up passing away when we were younger, and then grandpa ended up still living for such a long time after her death. But I feel like a lot of us cousins kind of looked to their marriage as like almost like the standard and something that to strive for. And I have to give our cousins some credit because of all the married cousins, they haven't picked a bad one. Like, I adore all of the cousins that have been married into the family because they're all solid.
Yeah, like, good for us for picking good ones. I think it's our second oldest cousin, his wife. She's top notch.
So it's funny that you mention our cousins because they have actually been listening to the podcast since the very beginning, since the first episode. So shout out to you guys for being some of my biggest supporters, aside from my husband.
What? Oh my god, hi guys. We love you and we miss you. You guys are a good time. Let's get together.
Absolutely. This I feel like the six of us, like the three couples, would have the best time together.
Yeah, get some beers or something.
Yeah, and I also think like when we're recording this, it's actually their wedding anniversary. So shout out to you guys and happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
You guys are one of my absolute favorite couples. So I love seeing you guys, and I wish we could see each other more. I'm already looking forward to our next visit. Something that I love about our cousin is after he listens to every single one of my episodes, he'll send me some kind of text message and like give me his thoughts on the thing, and it's so great. I love you.
God, he's such a good guy. I did not know. That's so crazy. And I'm so glad that he supports you because our family kind of is all over the place. Some are even out of state and, doing their own things. So that's great. And his schedule is busy as it is. So that's awesome. I love hearing that.
Yeah, he really is a good dude. He's one of um the favorites to hang out with for sure. And I don't we don't get to see him often, but it's always such a great time when we do.
What's crazy is that we see him maybe not even once a year just because of his work situation and his where they live at and stuff like that. They're not always super local and they travel and stuff like that. And it's but whenever we're around him, it's like no time has passed. Like I think even your husband, but definitely my husband, they have like a whole bromance thing going on where I'm
Mhm.
just like, get the fuck away from each other. Yeah, and they just immediately accepted my husband into the family, and his wife is so cool too, and I love that they've always been a big supporter, like, about their kid and everything, but man, he's every time we're around, he's just such a good freaking time.
Yeah, he really is such a great time, and I remember um the time when he ended up surprising me for my engagement.
Oh, yeah, I remember he came.
And we ended up having a concert that same night that we got engaged. And according to my husband, I got the date wrong, and according to me, he should have double checked the correct date, but semantics. So after we got engaged, I pulled my husband aside and I was telling him, I was like, he's coming to this show. I don't care how much the ticket is.
You're buying it. Yeah.
I was like, you're buying it. And so we ended up doing it. He ended up coming to the show with us. He had no idea who was playing. He didn't know any of the songs, and he ended up going into the mosh pit and losing his shoe. Yeah, he just had the best time. And after the show was all over, we were leaving and walking out, and he looked over at me and was like, "Hey, can you send me the top 3 albums from these bands because they were really good, and I want to start listening to their music."
That's so him too.
Yeah, it was a great time. But getting back on topic a bit from our little cousin tangent, but something that I want to um, talk about was the differences between our parents splitting up because my parents also ended up getting divorced, but they ended up getting divorced when I was a lot older and I was like almost 18 by that point. And I didn't talk to my mom a lot after the divorce, and I still don't. But the very small times that I did end up talking to her, like my dad was always the enemy, and I was very glad that when the divorce ended up happening, I was a lot older and I didn't have to deal with any nasty custody battle. But something that I kind of always admired about your parents is that your dad like never badmouthed your mom, and your mom also never badmouthed your dad, and like he also made sure that she ended up getting the house in the divorce and like all that stuff. And I just think like your parents handled it a lot more maturely than like my parents than at least like my mom did.
That's one thing that I will say that I really admire about both my mother and my father is because they never bashed each other. My dad was like the absentee father. He cheated on my mom and he ended up having a life with a woman for like 17 years after that until she passed away. And they definitely were like the power couple because he would always say like she's like I love you and he was like no you love me fierce. Like they had like a not toxic love story, but there was a lot of passion in that relationship. It's like, oh, that's who your person is as hard as it is sometimes to say that or think about that, but my parents never bashed each other. My mom, as upset as she was, as probably as hurt as she was at the time, never went after my dad, never took him for more than what she could get out of him, never, was like, you have to come pick your kids up, never anything like that. And my dad was always like, gave my mom all the credit. She raised those kids, her and her mom and her family, because my mom would drop us off at my grandma's and then she would obviously have to go to work and she was a single mom and my grandma would take us to and from school and pick us up and get our homework started and get our dinner started and she was very strict so we learned a lot of manners and a lot of what you can and cannot do and you've met her and my dad will always credit my mom to this day like she raised those kids and my kids at parties your kids are so well behaved well yeah that's my ex-wife's doing because I didn't raise them I wasn't there now we have a great relationship older, but I agree with that even if you have kids and it's not working out, you can still be civil and you can still co-parent and you can still not have to bash each other and make your children feel a type of way about it or you have to pick me, I'm the better parent or so many things like that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And with my marriage now, um it definitely takes a lot of work. Like you like at the end of the day you're still tied to this person you can't walk away there's choices there's things that I think about sometimes even things I think about saying where I'm like you know what this is your husband now like you really have to work for it and
Yeah.
there was a time in my marriage where I was like I am going to divorce this person like a year in I was like this is just not working out it's not what I expected and things just took a total 180 and I'm so grateful that we both put in the effort for that and it's crazy. And I remember when we first got married, the very next day on my honeymoon, I was terrified. I was shaking in my boots. Like, what did I just do? I've known this person for 15 years. We've been friends. We've dated. We've broken up. And now I'm married to this person. What was I thinking? It was instant panic. And I feel so guilty um, feeling that way. But I want to be honest about it that I think it's, sometimes marriage is a little bit scary.
No, I think that's a very like normal and natural thing to feel. after you get married. My experience was a bit different when I married my husband. Because to me, it felt like nothing really changed. Like everybody was asking me, like, "Oh, like, how do you feel?" I'm like, "I feel exactly the same as I did yesterday. Just now, I can legally say he's my husband." But our just relationship had always progressed so organically. And I remember when we first started dating, we had both talked about how we wanted to get married. And he had mentioned that he wasn't even going to think about proposing until after we were together for 4 years. And I was like, okay, no big deal. Like, I was already planning on being around forever. So I was like, what's 4 years? And by our third anniversary, um, we were talking and we were out to dinner, and he ended up telling me that by this time next year that we were going to be engaged. And I was excited. And sure enough, the next year on our fourth anniversary, we were already engaged for about like 4 or 5 months, something like that. And we were always like a title ahead for each other. I was calling him my fiance long before I ended up getting a ring. I then, after I got the engagement ring, I was calling him my husband long before we were legally married. And it was just always the next natural step for us. And I remember before we even got married, it was our anniversary, and I asked him what he wanted for our anniversary, and he said he wanted his wedding ring. So I said, okay, no problem. So he picked one out that he wanted. I ended up buying it, and it came in the day before our anniversary. So he was like, oh, I want to see it. I want to see it. And I was like, did I get to see my ring before um, you gave it to me? He was like, no. I was like, well, then you're going to see it on anniversary.
Would have caved. Babe, here you go. Just put it on. Let the ladies know you're taken. Let the bitches know.
Well, at the time we were working together, so everybody in our entire office knew that he was taken and he was mine, and they weren't gonna try and step to me to uh to try and challenge me on that one.
Right.
You brought up a good point about marriage being work, and I 100% agree with you. It is. It's not like a constant work, but you have to realize that you guys are a team. And it reminds me of a quote that I heard from Matthew McConaughey. I was listening to a podcast that he was on a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how there comes times in your marriage where you're both moving at different speeds, but it's important to always have your partner in the line of sight. Like he would mention that maybe someone's healthy while the other is on injured reserve IR, and in one phase someone's running while the other one can only like manage a walk. And it's important that you, no matter at what pace you're moving, you always want to make sure that you have your partner in your line of sight. You're not just leaving them behind, and that you're able to turn around and help them if they need you to.
It really is, and I couldn't agree more. I really do think it is a team. Like there's things now where I think my husband does a little bit more in some areas and I do a little bit more in this area. And some of it is a standard like I like to be in the kitchen. I like to cook. I'm very domestic. I'm very proud of that. I still go to work and have a full-time job and I still come home and work my ass off at home and I sit down at 8 o'clock at nighttime and I'm tired because I've been up since 3:30. I've taken care of my job and my house and my husband and he's done things for me too. And I think a lot of I don't wanna say it's just women because maybe there's a certain way that people are very particular sometimes. They want things done a certain way, and sometimes their husband or wife is not doing it that way, but I think that's where you become a team, like, "Okay, you can do the dishes for me and the vacuum for me and the trash for me, and I can do everything else, but let's meet in the common ground to where we can be a team and do some, like, house responsibilities, or if we're gonna pay for this together as a team," and I think that all factors into the marriage because there's some people that it's like, "Nope, you do this because 'cause you're this role, and I do this because 'cause I'm that role," and there's never any like meeting in the middle or I almost want to say bonding. I feel my husband and I really bonded a lot too because we've done so much on our own. No one helped us do anything. Even like for a move, for example, it was me, him, and a U-Haul truck with tons of boxes in a two-story house. And it's like we did that, and we bonded over that. And that was even before we were married. But I mean, just things like that, I think a lot of couples don't go through or don't want to go through or don't want to be a team about. And I agree, you can't lose sight of your partner or, where you guys are at.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I just sometimes don't understand how people can stay married to somebody for so long that they just can't stand and they just hate to be around them. And I was talking to my friend a while back where we ended up talking about marriage, and I was telling her that I sometimes think that people get married because they want the wedding, but not necessarily the marriage that comes with, like, comes after the wedding.
Even your debt's gonna last a lot longer than that. Oh, you wanna go in
Mm-hmm.
$40,000 in debt to have a wedding to get a big ass ring and then not go home and be a team about it? Okay.
Yeah, like that just makes no sense to me. And like, while my husband may get on my last nerve, like, I still love him to pieces, and he's genuinely like one of my absolute like favorite human beings to be around.
Yeah. Sometimes I just wanna take the pillow and, like, you know? But I think that's natural, and I don't think it's a bad way to feel about that. There is a friend of mine where she claims that her and her boyfriend never fight. And I'm like, there has to be some type of annoyance or fighting, and you're not the perfect couple. Oh yeah, we never fight. Okay. No, I think it's natural. I think it's good to feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, it is, but also like, I don't fight with my husband. Like, me and my husband don't fight. And that's not to say that we don't have conflict, because we do, but it's never like a screaming match, and it's never, us saying things that are hurtful towards each other. Like, we don't fight in that sense. But I came from such a chaotic household, where there was all kinds of fighting all the time with everybody. And then I also ended up learning, through my communication degree, how to resolve conflict, and also just how to talk to somebody, and learning how to listen, and just how to voice the concern that you're trying to make, or like voice the point that you're trying to make. So I really, at the beginning of our relationship, I kind of had to teach him how to resolve conflict. And because he had a lot of relationships where if anything got brought up that was, a point of tension or anything like that, like, it would always lead to a fight. And I had to tell him, like, no, you can tell me when something's bothering you or when something's wrong, but it doesn't have to lead to a fight. And if we just resolve it amicably and basically like politely, and we just listen to each other and try to understand where the other's coming from, like, it doesn't have to lead to a fight. So like, I don't fight with my husband.
I think you brought up like very good points right now because one, like you having the tools, I would say, or understanding the way to communicate is very valuable. There's a lot of partners out there where partners don't talk about anything. I myself sometimes are guilty of that, and where you have to feel like you're pulling teeth to get that out of your marriage or your partner or whatever it may be. But the fact that you know how to communicate and you recognize it, I think that's very valuable. Even me, when I would turn to you for advice and you would listen to me and you'd be like, well, hey, look at it this way, or hey, I understand where you're coming from. Like it's so helpful because you have that, value or that trait to where you can. And it's good that you show Lee. I think marriage too is a lot of teaching. Um, and like how you said that you taught your husband how to communicate, and I not taught him, but you know what I mean? Like you kind of just open their eyes a little. I just think that the communication is such a big thing. And I think a lot of that too sometimes comes with age. I don't think everybody is good at that. I think definitely the older that I have gotten and my husband has gotten, we really learn to communicate. And I don't forget if it's called the 24-hour rule or the 48-hour rule. I'm sure someone out there can correct me,
Oh, I
but
know what you're talking about.
is it the 48 hours? Yeah, where it's like if you think about it or if it's gonna bother you, you need to say something about it.
If it bothers you after 24 hours, then within 48 hours, you have to talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good rule of thumb to kind of follow, but it's also a very difficult thing to implement if you're not in the habit of talking to your partner about like touchy subjects or things that bother you, or like pressure points in the relationship. And even like me myself, when I have to bring something up to my husband, sometimes I still find myself not avoiding the conversation, but like worrying about it. Like, I'm not sure how he's going to react, and then I never want something to lead to a fight, so then I get nervous about it and stuff like that. But I always, end up talking to him about it eventually. And it's important to voice things to your partner if they're bothering you, so that way you guys can try and like put it behind you, because it's not me versus you, it's us versus the problem. And what I also think is really important to remember is like, I feel like a lot of people end up just avoiding conflict because they don't want to fight with somebody, so they just kind of brush everything off and shove it under the rug, and that doesn't make the conflict go away. It kind of just makes it go dormant for a little bit, and that's why in so many instances where you're fighting with somebody and they bring up like something that happened 3 years ago, and you're like, what are you even talking about?
I don't remember what happened.
Yeah, but that's kind of where it leads to. Because if you're not talking about it in the moment, then it's just going to fester. And then when you're talking about something 4 years later that's unrelated, it's going to end up showing up in a different fight.
And things I think that's such a good point because people push stuff under the rug all the time. And like you're saying, remember that one night, like on November 24th, 1984, you said this and you were mad at the club? No, bitch, I don't remember. But okay, you're mad about it now? Okay, make it make sense.
I sometimes also feel like the people that try to avoid conflicts as much as possible are also the same ones that always end up in conflicts, just because uh, even though you're trying to avoid it at all costs, because none of those conflicts get resolved, they're going to keep popping up and keep popping up until they do get resolved. So then they're constantly like fighting with their partner all the time. And it really makes me appreciate that me and my husband don't have a lot of like tension points in our relationship, because at the end of the day, he's my best friend and I don't enjoy being upset with him.
My friend, one of my friends, a couple people have asked us because we've been together for so long, and we did get married a little bit later in life. They're like, how do you even like him? And I'm like, I just genuinely like him as a person. He is my friend. Like we were friends before we were anything else, and he's a good companion. And I think that's very important in a relationship because you have to like the person.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. My husband is literally my best friend. Do you have any hot takes on marriage?
I would say a hot take for me would be we would be proposing to someone because you feel like you have to because it's been 2 years, 5 years. Like, okay, it's been long enough. You're feeling the pressure, or someone's like, "Where's my ring? Where's my ring?" So then you propose to them, and then guess what? Shit goes sideways. That I think would be my hot take. Like, don't feel like you need to propose or need to get married because you guys have been together a certain amount of time, or like you feel it's time. It's just if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I also don't think that just because you have kids, you have to get married.
Oh, you took my hot take right out of my mouth, because that's one of my biggest things. I don't feel like um, just because you have a child with somebody that you automatically have to get married. It's different if like you've already been together for like a period of time and you've talked about marriage and like you want to take the next step, and then you end up having a baby and then things progress naturally. Or it could even be like if you have a baby with somebody and then the relationship with like between the two parents ends up progressing naturally, then you end up getting married. Like those things are fine, but it's just the situations where like you end up having a baby with somebody and then you have that like conversation like, well, I guess we better get married, and it's like you don't have to. Like you can be a co-parent with somebody but not have to be in a relationship with them.
There are so many, not even my friends, just people in general. I'm like, okay, you got a baby and now you're married and you guys are just miserable for why? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people should get married just because they feel obligated and because they have kids. There's other things you can do. You can still be together, but just don't do it if you don't want to.
Yeah, I agree. Because, like, to me, marriage is I love this person, and no matter what life throws at me, I want them by my side through it all, and I want to be right by their side for whatever gets thrown their way. I also don't think that people need to stay together just because they have kids, because my parents' marriage should have ended long before it did, because I very much just witnessed like a broken marriage, and like to me they should have split up a lot sooner than they did. But it's something that I talk to my husband a lot. Well, not a lot because he doesn't like talking about divorce or anything. But I very much in the standpoint that I'd rather, if anything ended up happening to where we needed to get a divorce, knock on wood, don't think that would never happen. But if it ended up did and we had kids, I'd rather us be able to separate amicably and be able to show our kids like, yeah, like maybe the marriage didn't work out, but we can still co-parent and be there for them, while also showing them that you can also go and find happiness after like a failed marriage type thing, or like if a marriage doesn't work out. And that's something I always like admired about your parents, because they never bashed each other or said anything negative to one another after the marriage ended.
Yeah, I don't think they're good examples of co-parenting because again, he was absent and gone. He basically left his family for somebody else and took off on the road. And that was, his life. And he was like a cross country truck driver, so he didn't, have a need for a house. But we never like hung out and did family outings and like, there was no co-parent trips, but it was nice to not to see them like beat each other up because a lot of times, like you said, when people do get divorced or you have to co-parent even without being married, it's like one parent is always getting bashed or they're guilt tripping the kid and like, what did your dad do today? Who did he have over? It's like it's just so unnecessary.
Hmm.
The relationship ended for a reason. Now you have this child together, make it the best for the child. Don't use them as like a what's the right word?
Bargaining
Like a
chip.
monopoly piece.
Yeah, that's very true. And I know I said that like their marriage should have ended a lot sooner than it did, but I'm also very thankful that my parents' marriage ended when it did, just because I was a lot older and I didn't have to go through a custody battle. Because my mom would have very much either gotten full custody of us when we were younger, or also just uses both as bargaining chips to try and figure out what was happening with my dad.
Well, let's thank the Lord that that did not happen, and I could totally see that happening as well. You should be very proud of yourself and what you've overcame and how much you've accomplished. Like you're doing the damn thing, and only you can credit yourself for that because you could have taken a different life and you could have taken the way that things happened and went a different route, and you didn't. You overcame all that. Which is, like I said, it's just really shitty sometimes of parents when that happens. It's like, okay. Especially if the parent doesn't even want the kid, but they just want to be really petty about it and use the children anyways. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to take this person for all they got. So let me use this kid and get custody and then, be a shit parent.
Yeah, like I only want them because you do, and I want them so you're unhappy.
Yeah, that's why kids grow up with so many daddy issues and,
Mommy
a lot of
issues.
other things. Yeah, mommy issues. What's interesting, I wanna touch on your mom a little bit, is that growing up, I thought she was, like, the shit. I thought she was, like, white on rice, she was so cool. She would take me into her closet and show me, like, all of her, like, fancy clothes and, like, her makeup samples and I was, again, like, in elementary school, you were a baby at that point, and I just thought she was the coolest thing. Then, a little bit older in life when I realized what she was and she's like, "Yeah, April's so pretty because she sucked all the beauty out of me and now I look
Oh
like
my
this." And I'm
god,
like,
if I have to hear that line,
"Who
girl, that
says
just took
that?"
me back. Ugh.
It's interesting how everybody sees everybody differently, you really don't know what that person is living with at home. So,
Yeah, and then speaking of your mom, like I would go over to your house and I would feel like this is a breath of fresh air. Like I felt like I was getting a break, and your mom was such a great example of what a mom should be and how they should treat their kids, because she always treated you and your brother with so much love and so much affection, and just always like there for you guys. And as like I remember being a kid and wanting her to like come home with me so that she can teach my mom a thing or two or 20. um, and it was definitely nice to go over to your house and kind of feel like I had a break from my own mom.
oh yeah, I'm very fortunate to have a good mom. She's a great mom. She's a good person and she definitely like deserves anything good that's coming to her because she did so much for us when we were little. Growing up, I was not easy. I was a child that like screamed I hated you at their mom because I was so upset, you know what I mean? And I'm so happy that we are so close to this day and have such a good relationship. So she's silly too. She thinks she's so funny. Like,
That's
mom, okay, that's
awesome.
that's not a joke.
Yeah, your mom's great. So shout out to your mom if she ever ends up listening to this. Hi, I love you. I miss you. I wish we could hang out some more. But yeah, she's a fucking rock star, and I love her to pieces. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is in-laws. So do you have any advice for our listeners about in-laws?
I want to be very careful with my wording here just because, they are my family. And my husband is very fortunate enough to come from a very good family. And his situation growing up was kind of like mine. Not saying like with the dad cheating, anything like that, but his mom and dad were separated very young. And I believe to this day they are still married. But he also was like a single mom type of environment where the mom worked and the grandparents stepped in. And him and I really bonded over that. So he was raised very well and they are very good people. His sister is super successful and has, kids of her own and life of her own. I would just say just be patient um and I think it's important not to bash them either because I would never badmouth my husband's family. That's doing nothing for my marriage and nothing for me really, and I don't think that he would appreciate that, but at the end of the day, it's like you guys have to be a team. You guys are still always gonna be family, and there's gonna be hiccups. We had a lot of hiccups, but we also addressed them and talked about them, and then we were able to move forward. And there's some people that don't wanna move forward, and there's some people that unfortunately have an awful mother-in-law or father-in-law to where they hope your relationship fails. And I think you can't let it affect you. At the end of the day, it's still you and your husband or your partner. You guys still need to be that team, and there's things you're gonna have to either address, or the biggest thing I could say is set boundaries. There's needs to be boundaries, and if they're being crossed or things are not going the way you want, you need to speak up about it, but then just address it with your partner or your family. You don't wanna have that awkward Christmas, that awkward birthday party, you know what I mean? Um, there are things looking back now, like being my age now, that I would have done differently, or maybe I would have spoken up in a different way or reacted differently. But I mean, shit happens, and that's okay. As long as you learn from it, and like you also have to support each other. Like if let's say my family was treating my husband like crap and he was like, "Okay, babe, why aren't you speaking up and do anything about it?" Like I would speak up and do something about it. You know, we would have to be like united front, like, "Hey, that's not okay." And I would expect that both ways. And I think that's also important too, because I think sometimes a lot of partners will let their family walk on top of them and nothing gets said, and they'll just be, "Oh, okay, well that's just the way you're going to treat my partner and we're good with that. Let's, move on and go out, and have fun." And it's like that's also not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that reminds me of a quote that I saw a few days ago, and it was, "Don't let the family you came from harm the family that you created." And when I saw that, I was like, fuck
Ooh.
yes. Because I thought that was such a good quote. And because what I think a lot of people don't realize is that when you get married to somebody, like you then create your own family. Like, yes, like you have your parents and your family, and they have their parents and their family. But at the end of the day, like you have created your own family. Either it's like just the two of you, or like when you start having kids, like you've created your own family within that unit. And my dad always like one of my dad's favorite things to say is, when people die or get married, things change, and he's 100% correct. And I think it's important to understand, like, once you created your own family, you can then decide what you want to do with that family. Like, maybe, like, when it comes to the holidays, like, okay, maybe one day you go visit one person's side of the family and spend the day with them, and then the next day you go over and spend the day with the other side of the family. Or maybe you guys host a big event and have both sides of the family come in and you start mingling together. So it all just depends on kind of like what works best for your own family.
Well, that's all a matter of perspective. Just because I like, well, you've lived through yours as well, but it's I think sometimes too, like on the family's part, it's hard for them to accept, like, hey, like your dad said, things change when people die and when people get married. I think sometimes they have a hard time accepting a new person in. I think even sometimes there could even be like a little bit of jealousy, even though there doesn't mean to be. I think there could be they could feel a type of way about your partner, thinking they're going to come in and step on your toes and take their places. But I mean, that's just life. They did it with their husband or wife, at some point in life.
Yeah, exactly. So my take on in-laws is a bit different, mainly just because I kind of view family a little bit differently than most people do. I have two sister-in-laws, and they are absolutely amazing. I love them to pieces. And me and my oldest sister were talking the other day, and she ended up saying something about like how I scare her, but like in the best way. And I was like, yeah, I am definitely like the best person to have on your side in a fight or
Always
something.
on your team. Yes, I would not want to be on the opposing team, that's for sure.
And she ended up telling me how she wish she wishes that both of her daughters end up like growing up and being like me. And I thought that was so sweet. And
Oh, that's like one of the best compliments you can receive too.
yeah, like it just like melted my whole heart. And then I was trying to convince her to move up with me and my husband, so that way they can see me a lot more, which is also something that I'm having to get used to. Like, I'm an aunt now, and like I have nieces and nephews, and I have to get used to like putting that hat on, I guess.
Yeah, that just makes me really quick. It makes me think of a story last Christmas because I don't have any kids. I am a dog mom, and we don't have any kids by choice right now. My husband, my sister-in-law, she has 2 kids, great kids, and his sister is super successful, and she's a great time. She's a super party planner, she's a teacher. They gifted me this huge, beautiful, like, auntie, coffee mug to use for traveling or for tea, and I was, like, so touched by that because that's the first time I got, like, a, "Oh, you're an aunt" type of thing. Because normally, moms would get that gift, like, "Okay,
Yeah.
here, mom, here's a coffee cup, you're the greatest mom," but I was so touched by it because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, like, this is my first aunt, gift to use," so
Yeah, and you do love your coffee mugs.
I do, I'm a coffee girl, I'm a tea girl.
I like tea, but more verbal than herbal.
You like the gossip.
I love the gossip. And it makes me frustrated when my husband will like come and like give me like a piece of gossip, but then I'm always asking like, okay, like what ended up happening? Like how did this like I'll ask for the details and he's like, "Oh, I don't know." Like they just told me that. And I'm like, "How are you talking to your friends for hours and you don't talk about anything?" And like men cannot gossip. Like my husband may have the gift of gab, but he can't gossip for anything.
I think that that's so true about men. My husband, he is a little gossiper. He loves to come home and tell me all the tea about work, but then sometimes he's like, we call each other on the way home from work every day. So like when I get in my car to leave, I'll call him and say, "Hey, I'm on the way home," and he'll be like, "Babe, I can't wait till you get home so I can tell you about what happened at work." And then I'll get home and it's like, "Oh yeah, so and so got mad. They didn't talk to each other." I don't give a fuck. Like, tell me something real.
Why? Why are they not talking to each other? What was
Yeah,
said? Like how'd
what
you
was
find out
said?
about it? Like there's
Yeah, what
a
caused them on
backstory.
talking? Give me all the other info. So sometimes they miss things.
Seriously, like, I told my husband, I was like, think to yourself, what would my wife ask me, and then ask them.
Yeah. How old are they? Are they dating? Is this new? Do they have children? Are we gonna double date? Good questions.
Very solid questions. Yeah, my sister-in-laws are fabulous and amazing, and I love them. But my parent-in-laws are a bit of a different story. They have their own histories with my husband that I'm not going to get in the middle of. As of right now, it's not my place. But I will not tolerate somebody mistreating my husband.
There goes that territorial thing, that protectiveness in you that where you're like, okay, this is not okay.
Yeah, like I don't care who you are, what relationship you think you have with my husband, what was said, I don't care. I will not tolerate it and it's not gonna fly. If you wanna come at him sideways, you get to deal with me and I'm the Doberman. I'm the one that's always ready for a fight. Um I also kind of feel like I brought the boundaries a bit to this side of the family and very much a type of energy of like, oh, we're not doing this anymore type thing. And my husband is also starting to adopt it as well. Like he'll like tell me like X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, no, that's not okay. And he's like, yeah, you're right, and I don't have to put up with it anymore. And he's kind of standing up for himself, and I'm very proud of him for doing that. And I'm happy that he gets to kind of make those decisions for himself. I'm the quickest one to drop a boundary. Like I don't, if I get the slightest inkling of a bad energy, I'm like, nope, we're done, and I don't really care.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, and it's not like I don't want my husband to like have a relationship with his parents because I do, and if they ever end up working out their differences with my husband and end up wanting to rebuild their relationship with him, I'm all for that. I would love for my husband to have those types of relationship with his parents and, to be able to, have that. But just because you're good with my husband doesn't mean you have to be good with me. Like, I'm good. I have a great relationship with my dad, and that's all I kind of really need. I can be cordial to them when I'm around them, but it doesn't need to be anything more than that. As long as you respect me, I'll respect you, and that's all it really needs to be.
Right. And sometimes that's all it has to be. And thank God you have a good dad. Your dad is great.
Yeah, my dad is really great. I'm very lucky to have him. We have the best relationship, and I love that I have him. I may not have had the mother daughter relationship that everyone has, but I definitely have the father daughter relationship that a lot of people want. And like you mentioned, how like you and your husband call each other when you're on your way home from work. Like my dad calls me on his way home from work, and we have like our daily like dad and daughter chats. And he fills me in on like all the hot gossip at at his job and also like within the family. My dad kind of always knows what's going on with everybody like within the family, and I feel like I also have like a little bit of that as well. Like, and he is always willing to like meet everybody in the middle and never wants anybody to feel like they're left out or excluded.
He's always more the merrier. Like, "Okay, you guys come over, have a good time." He always included everybody. Even when my mom divorced, he'd be like, "Okay, come over with the kids." And it would be him, your mom, and my mom, and they would hang out at the neighbor's house. And us 4 kids would be, your brother, my brother, we would all be inside hanging out. And it was just so great that he still included her, even though like my dad was out of the picture and they were divorced and stuff. And I will always love him because we got to really know the family. And there are things that we wouldn't have been invited to if it wasn't for your dad.
Yeah, he's pretty great, and I'm very thankful that I have him. So shout out to my dad if he ever listens to this. I love you, and you're pretty great.
Yeah, he's pretty decent.
Oh my god. Okay, so that reminds me of a funny story about me and my dad. So, for everybody that doesn't know, me and my dad have very close birthdays. Like we only our birthdays are only 4 days apart. And my original due date was supposed to be on my dad's birthday. So I found that out when I went up to him and I said, "Oh, wouldn't that have been the best birthday gift that you ever got?" And he just deadpans me and looks at me and goes, "I would have looked for the receipt." Yeah, and I was like, "Excuse me, how dare you? I'm like the best thing that's ever happened, but you want to come at me like that." But he was like, "No, I'm just kidding, but it's I'm glad that you have your own day because, my birthday's my birthday and you have your own day." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, whatever."
You know what I really like about your dad and my dad is that running joke they've done for years is that, "Oh, you're my favorite niece." And then I say, "Okay, but I'm your only niece," because we are the one of 2 girls in this entire family,
Listen, my dad
except for now.
accepted that truth, and your dad has fought me on it for
Yeah.
years. Years he's fought me on this. I'm like, "I'm your favorite niece," and he goes, "You're my only niece." Exactly, I'm your favorite, and he goes, "My only niece." Accept it.
Yes.
Just accept it. Both things can be true. He's like, "No, you're not," and I'm like, and then my dad's over here like, "Oh, Amanda, my favorite niece." I'm like, you understand the assignment.
And then I'm like, "But I'm your only niece."
Yeah, you and your dad were like, it's the only one. And me and my dad were like, no, like, favorite.
They're funny.
But he finally accepted. He conceded.
Only took you 18 years, but okay.
More like 20. I'm like, this is exhausting. Okay, so speaking of birthdays, I have a bit of a fun fact for you. So I'm born on the 5th. You're born on the 23rd, and 2 plus 3 equals 5.
Oh,
And our grandma is born on the 14th. 1 plus 4 equals 5.
shut up.
Yeah. Oh, and it gets better. And in numerology, because I'm a witch,
We know.
and I like looking for different connections in a bunch of different things. So in numerology, the number 5 is normally and pretty heavily associated with beauty. And I have always thought that our grandma was
Yeah,
gorgeous.
she was.
Yeah, she really was. She was always very pretty. And I've always also thought that you were incredibly gorgeous and beautiful. And for the longest time, I didn't feel like I really put myself in that category as both you and grandma. I always kind of thought that there was nothing really special about myself. And I just didn't see myself as beautiful like I would like you and grandma.
First of all, you are beautiful. Thank you very much. I do not want to hear you talk about yourself like that. And I never knew that. That's a fun fact. Maybe that's why we feel so like in tuned with her, like our whole life. Like I think we've talked about this before. She passed when we were really young, and like whenever something would happen, and I'm like, okay, I just got like saved today, or like this could have been way worse. I'm like, okay, that's definitely her watching out for us. Like I'm a big advocate. Like I believe that. Like if it's because she's up there, keep an eye out for us. So that's interesting.
Oh, yeah, she 100% is. Because I also remember after my dad's second accident, he ended up in the hospital. And I remember I went to go visit him the next day, and he woke up, and I looked at him and I said, "You better thank your mother because she is the reason that you're sitting here right now."
She's working OT.
She really was. And since me being the youngest and she passed away before I was even a year old, I kind of felt like I never knew her in the way that you and like the rest of the cousins really got to know her. So for for a while when I was younger, I kind of was a bit upset about that just because I wanted to know her for myself. So I kind of had to learn about her from everybody else's memories type of thing. And I kind of felt like that was our own little special like relationship that we got to have.
You do, and I think that makes it a special relationship, like, for you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. But speaking about beauty, I've always thought that you were so fashionable, and I always thought you look so good. Like anytime I saw like pictures you posted on Instagram, or like when we would see each other in person, I just always thought that you looked so nice and you always look so stylish. And I remember you telling me you don't know where you get it from, but I feel like it's genetics because your dad is easily the most best dressed person in this entire family.
He really is. He's the type where, like, his shoes, his shirt, and his watch will match whatever color is popping out of his button-down shirt. Like, that is him to a T. And, a lot of that comes from his dad because, like, grandpa was always in a button-up shirt. When did you ever really see him in a T-shirt? Like, even at breakfast, like, you obviously were around him a little bit more, but he always still wore button-up shirts. I remember them being tucked in, not to mention, like, the Elvis, like, hair
Don't
he
touch the
has going
hair.
on.
Do not
Don't
touch
touch
that
the
hair.
hair. If
Don't
it's a
have him
bad
mess up his hair. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, it'll be a bad day. If it's a bad hair day, we are all having a bad day. Let's just put that out there right now. It's definitely a little bit more salt and pepper than it is black now, but um, man, he got style. And if, for those of you that don't know, to me, he's always looked like a cross between like Jeff Bridges and Kurt. I think it's Kurt Russell, the guy that was with Goldie Hawn. Kurt
Okay.
Russell, right?
Okay. I can
Yeah,
see it. I can fucking
I
see
could
it.
see both.
Yeah.
And then sometimes now that he's older, I kind of see like John Travolta dressed up as Santa Claus or something. I don't know, which is like so bad to say, but
Oh my
yeah,
god. He totally could do that.
you see it, right? You
I
could see it.
100% see it. That, oh my god. Yes.
Oh yeah, but he's nice looking. Even he now in his, in his mid 60s, he's getting picked up at Costco by women shopping there because my stepmom, who's great, she's not a shopper. She doesn't grocery shop. I know this is a little bit off topic, but he'll go into Costco dressed up in his, button-down shirt and his matching watch and his shoes and his Oakley sunglasses, and the ladies just flock to him. And I'm like, okay, stepmom, you should really go out with him in public because they think he's single. They see a guy shopping, oh, he has a Costco membership? Oh my goodness. He's a keeper. Yeah, he has great style. And I've always loved fashion. Like even as a kid, like we would go to the store, they always have like a magazine aisle. I would always get like the ones that had like the prom on it because I would want to look at all the dresses and like all the Vogue stuff. And like I just love to look at that. I am more of a career girl. Obviously, I've struggled with that my whole life. I'm at the point in my life now where I really like how I look. I love my curves. I love being a thicker girl, although I would like to, incorporate more fitness, which we've been doing and stuff. But I feel like I always had to try harder than everybody because I was a curvier girl. Things that looked good on someone, like a t-shirt dress, would make me look pregnant, or a leggings and baggy shirt and a messy bun would look great on you, sexy on you, but I would look like the Trunchbull from like Matilda because I can't throw off a messy bun and a baggy t-shirt. It's just not for my body type. So I would see a way someone styled something and I would try to recreate it on my own. And I would add it like an accessory, or have my hand on my hip when I take a picture, or I know the good side of my face is the right side, so if we're taking a picture, I'm gonna be facing the right side of the camera, like little things like that, like I picked up along the way. um, I had a teacher in elementary school, and I remember, I think another teacher, his outfit was very loud that day, very flamboyant, and he was like, your shirt has to always match your shoes. And same thing with my dad. And that's always stuck with me. I think it's so important. And it's a part of fashion. I mean, like you want to look good. You don't wear all black and wear white shoes. And I mean, you can wear whatever the fuck you want, but you know, I really love fashion. I love to like look at how someone styles something and like, okay, I could do that, but I could do it my way. And now, with like social media and with Instagram and TikTok and all these like how to style for a date look, or how to, what to wear for work or casual day, like I just love that about the internet right now. I'm like, okay, I see you styling that. I can style that myself, and I try to recreate looks and what really works for my body type.
Yeah, because to me, like, I always thought that you looked so effortlessly beautiful and fashionable, like, all the time.
Oh no.
And, like, anytime I would see you coming over to the house, like, whether it was for, like, parties or whatever, I would just see how well, like, you styled everything. And you always just look so good. And I was just like, my cousin always just looks so great. And I just felt like I struggle all the time with like looking nice in like fashion.
Little did you know I probably cried about for an hour before that and probably went through 10 T-shirts to find the same type of black T-shirt that I'm wearing now to pull it together because I own 5,000 black shirts and it's, like,
And they're
so much
all different
struggle.
shades.
Yeah, all different shades, light black, faded black, black black. It just so much struggle went behind it, so I'm glad that you see it one way and you take a take from it, and I'm like, "This just outfit killed me today."
Yeah, no, I always thought you looked so good all the time. And yeah, because I feel like I could pull together an outfit for when we're going out, but my day to day fashion, I feel like is where I really struggle because I just sometimes opt to just dress comfortably. So, like, I'll grab like a pair of leggings and a button down shirt that my husband no longer wears anymore, and I just adopted it as my own, even though it's like three sizes too big for me. And I just always felt like you would do everything right whenever it comes to fashion. Like, you always accessorize really well, and you always just put together an outfit so well. And I've found myself thinking so often, like, if me and you could just go shopping together and you teach me your ways, I feel like I can finally understand it.
Oh, 100%. I think that's kinda like my hobby, like, people my husband, for example, he's a gamer and he's a golfer. I don't could care less about sports unless it's baseball. And obviously, I'm not a gamer girl, so I like hair and makeup, and I like to go shopping. I like clothes and I like to style, and that's just me. And a lot of it comes from my mom growing up. I seen her always get ready every single day. She got ready. She always did her makeup, and she would wear a dress to work. And I just grew up like loving makeup and like loving fashion. And between her and my dad, I mean, I had no chance.
You really didn't. And speaking of your mom again, like, she always did look so amazing. She looked great all the time. And I would remember when I would be over at her house and me and you would end up being in her bathroom like late at night, and she would always apologize to me for not having her makeup on, and I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, you're beautiful all the time, anytime." And I would never really notice like a difference when she would have her makeup on versus when she would have it off, because she was always just so pretty all the time. And I still think that, like, um, just like I think that you are equally beautiful all the time.
Oh,
And
stop.
no, because you're just so beautiful, and I've always thought that about you even when we were kids. And I've just always admired how you carried yourself, and I always just thought that you did everything right when it came to just how you needed to look. And you just always, you don't take anybody's shit, and you've always also just been so well spoken. And like, there was never anything in all of, my life that I felt like you ever like did wrong.
You're making me feel so good. I need to come on and talk to you on here more often. Like, you're doing great things for my ego right now.
Well, like, I've always thought these things, but I just never really found the right opportunity or time to tell you. So I figured this would be like the best opportunity to just tell you and talk about things that have just never come up before.
Yeah, that you think about it, you're like, "Oh, I wonder really how she'll react to this or how she feels about that." And it's crazy how our ideas on fashion are not fashion, but just even our style is so different. Where you are more of like a casual girly. Like, I think that you look your best when you are barefaced and hair up and in your leggings. Like, you come over to my house so many times like that, and I'm like, how can she just be so effortless and beautiful without doing anything? And here I am, a full face of makeup, looking like a troll or something. Like, it's just we're so different and the same, but it's like it took you nothing just to look like that, and it took me everything. Like, that's how my brain works. You know what I mean? That's I see things so differently.
And I would, in that same situation where you were looking at me like, oh, she just looks so effortlessly beautiful wearing nothing, and I would look at you and I'm like, and I would think she takes so much pride in her appearance. And I just always kind of found myself putting in like the absolute bare minimum. So I always looked up to you like, wow, like she really prides herself on like looking nice all the time. And I was just like, I wish I could do that.
And here I was envying you being all natural and stuff. It's like, and you were looking at me like, oh, she has makeup on, and
Yeah, and I love that we would have these comparisons between each other, but there was still never any competition. And I remember when I was younger, I used to think like, oh, if I could just look like my cousin, I would be okay and I would be happy with it.
you don't need to look like me. You're beautiful on your own, first of all. And now, like, the older I've gotten, I love, as much as I love makeup, like, I can go to the store now on the weekend and not worry about it. Honestly, curl your eyelashes and brush your little eyebrows back, and that's all I need for like a Saturday. Of course, sunscreen, girls, sunscreen. I'm telling you now, the key is sunscreen. Every single day, you put on that face sunscreen. I cannot recommend that enough. I'm such an advocate for like put your sunscreen on underneath your makeup. And I love being in my own skin. And I think like you said, I got that from my mom because she would be like, "Okay, don't look at me. I have no makeup on." I'm like, "Mom, you're beautiful. Like you're fine. You don't need the makeup, you know?" And the older I got, I'm like, "Okay, it's Saturday. I'm going to the store. I'm not going to put makeup on right now. Like I'm good being in my own skin." So own it, ladies, own it.
I'm doing my best, okay? I definitely had my own, I don't want to say struggles, but I just definitely had my own journey with makeup because I remember like as a teenager and like in high school, I had to have makeup on like anytime I left the house, even if I was just going to my friend's house, and then when I was at my friend's house, we weren't going to go anywhere. I still always had to have makeup on if I left my house. And I felt just so heavily dependent on it for such a long time as a teenager, and I felt like that's just what I needed to just look decent and normal. And I eventually got to the point, like I think it was in my late teens, maybe my early 20s, but I decided that I just was gonna stop wearing it. And even though I wasn't wearing makeup, it wasn't because like, I felt like I was comfortable in my own skin, because I definitely wasn't. And it took a really long time for me to like be comfortable just having a bare face.
I think though that you actually look your best without makeup because I think that your skin has gotten so good and like you're fair skin, I'm fair skin as well, but like you don't have discoloration really, like you don't have bags, like you look really nice without makeup on.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely noticed like how nice my skin was as I started to get older, and especially like when my acne for my teenagers really started clearing up. I noticed like how healthy and nice my skin was, and I remember like going to the store to get like a couple things, and one of my old coworkers who still worked there, she would always see me and she would just always compliment my skin. She's like, "Your skin just looks so good." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And she would ask like what I would do with it. I'm like, "I just wash it with this like specific bar of soap, and I just moisturized it, and like that was it." And I still only really do that with my skin, and I don't have a lot of acne breakouts anymore, which I'm very thankful for. I just get like small stuff like here and there. But even though I'm now like more comfortable in my own skin, I still don't always see the beauty in me, and I've always kind of struggled with seeing my own beauty. And I can look at like you and all of the women in our family like, oh, like they're like so beautiful, and I'm just like, yeah, like I never really felt like I was in that category. I've gotten a lot better, but I still sometimes find myself struggle to see what like my husband sees, because he's always like, "Oh babe, like you're so beautiful."
Yeah, see, we see it.
Yeah, I just didn't for like a really long period of time, but I'm slowly starting to come around to my own beauty, and it's its own process, but it's definitely a process that's starting to see progress. And I wish I could just like brush my eyebrows back, because even as I'm almost 30, I don't have like a full eyebrow, because I was blonde as a kid, and so my eyebrows were blonde and they're very, very light, and so I still have like half an eyebrow.
I wanna get
Okay.
them laminated because 'cause they're so light. Mine are not as light as yours, but mine are really light, and that sucks because if we had, like, the darker features, we would look not even better without makeup on, but they have that natural color already to where we don't
No.
look bald.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll have a full eyebrow and I can finally just brush it back and be able to see the full shape of it, but maybe that's what my 30s will bring. Who knows? I had this realization a couple weeks ago because it was during my vampire schedule, and I was just up thinking about like different things about myself and like about my childhood and my past and like all kinds of other stuff, like as you do at 3 o'clock in the morning. I kind of realized about myself that there's nothing wrong with me.
There's never been anything wrong with you. You're a beautiful girl.
And like there was nothing wrong with me now. There was never anything wrong with me as a kid. And it's crazy because I would constantly try and find something that was wrong with me. Like I would always be messing with like whatever acne was on my face, or like anything that I could mess with, I would mess with. And it was just this never ending cycle of I would have things that I would just want gone, but then I would be doing things to prevent them from being gone. And it just, it really took me back when I realized that there was nothing ever fucking wrong with me.
You have to be nice to yourself.
Yeah, and like I've slowly starting to learn to kind of give myself grace, and like there's nothing wrong with me.
There really isn't. People, if they're missing out, if
And there's
anything.
nothing wrong with you.
Well, that's another podcast.
Well, nothing. You are perfect just as you are. There's nothing wrong with you. There's never been anything wrong with you. I've always thought that. And to anybody listening, there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of you. Ugh, I'm having such a great time.
I'm having a great time as well.
All right. So, I feel like I have significantly picked your brain enough. So, is there anything that you would like to pick my brain about?
I was thinking about this because I know we chatted a little bit just because I expressed to you I was a little bit nervous and I just wanted to do a really good job. I wanted to represent you really well. And, whoever's listening out there, since it's my first time ever being listened to, other than my husband listening to me yap all the time. But um, I was thinking of a good question to ask you, but I really wanted to know, where do you see yourself like in 5 years? I thought it was a good opportunity to talk a little bit about your life and like where you want to be at, and like maybe to give a good chance for your viewers and listeners to know what you have maybe upcoming or what you have in store, or like just a little bit more about your life.
That's such a good question, and it's something that I don't think about very often.
Oh, good. I was nervous. I'll admit it. Or just something, anything like maybe you just wanna share, like, okay, where do you see your podcast goals maybe, or, in your line of work, or, do you guys have any plans for kids or moving, just anything in general that you wanna, in the next couple of years want to accomplish or share?
One of the goals that both me and my husband really want to accomplish, hopefully within the next year, but definitely within the next 5 years, is we really want to have a house so I can have, because I really want a space that's just my own. And I've also realized since moving out that I'm a legitimate adult now.
Yeah, it's scary. How did this happen? First you were in high school, and now it's like, dang, you're married and you're adulting.
Yeah, like I talked to my dad and like we talk about interest rates and I talked to him about like okay, well, for this insurance, like what am I supposed to like do with it and why do I need it? And talk about like different like retirement options for like when I go back to work and how I can start putting money aside for like retirement. And it's crazy, like I knew I was an adult when I was living with him because obviously like I turned 18 and I also turned 21 living with him, but like I didn't have to worry about like all the specifics and like I had bills, but I didn't have to like all the bills. And it's crazy when you realize that about yourself. Like you just have to start like handling things and doing the work for things that you want. And like now I have to figure out what I'm going to eat all the time and I just hate it.
One of the things I miss the most about living with my mother is her cooking. I love being an adult and having my space, but goddamn, her cooking is good.
Her cooking was really
I have
good.
such a good mom, man.
You really did. And yeah, her cooking was fucking amazing. Like yeah, I want a house and one of the biggest reasons why I want a house is because I want to like decorate it and like do what I want with it. Like I really feel like the if you don't let me gut this house and make it my own, I'll go insane type of energy from Beetlejuice. Like that's how I feel cuz I can't do that in an apartment and I just want to be able to like have the space to kind of just do what I want. Like if I want to paint a wall black, I can paint a wall black.
Yeah, you need your creative space for sure, and you can only get that in your own house.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that I really enjoyed when I was living at my dad's house because he really gave me the freedom to kind of just do whatever I wanted with my room. And granted, like he wouldn't let me like take a sledgehammer to a wall, obviously, but like he would let me paint, he would let me decorate, he would let me bring in like whatever I wanted, and he was very understanding with me wanting to make any like changes to the room, and he was always like very helpful and would offer me advice and stuff, and he was just really great about that.
You know what? Every time I would go to your house, because sometimes there would be months and months where we would see each other, you always had different shit in your room. Sometimes there'd be a whiteboard, or you had like your letters of your name on your wall for a long time,
I'm
and they moved
still so
around those
mad that
red
I threw
letters.
those out.
You should have kept those.
I know, but I just didn't.
Your bed would be in different places.
Yeah, I was constantly rearranging my room, and that was such a task because my room was tiny and I had such big fucking furniture.
Oh my God, yeah.
But I made them work, and yeah, I'm still just so mad about those letters because they were fucking iconic. It was when I was redoing my room for the last time before I moved out, and I was like changing everything, and I was painting, and I like was going for like a more of like a gray and like dark blue aesthetic, and they just didn't fit because they were bright ass red.
Yeah. I could picture them in my head perfectly.
Same, fucking same, and yeah, they just didn't fit with the aesthetic anymore, so I ended up like throwing them away. But I'm so mad at myself that I did, because I want them back. And so I'm like, oh, like I'll just have to remake them, because they were just like pillow letters that just made my name. So if I still had them, I would just like put a different fabric on it, but I don't, so I have to just start from scratch. I because I want to say they were a gift from like one of my dad's friends or something.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, she like made them for me. But yeah, I'm mad at myself for doing that, but I'll just have to like remake them. I'll just have to learn how to sew and redo them.
Yeah, you have time.
Which is also like something I want to like pick up, is I want to start sewing. But again, like a sewing machine isn't that expensive, but you also like need to have like the room for, and like the space for like a sewing machine, and like for everything that goes with it, and I don't have that in an apartment right now. So that's another thing that I want to like be able to start doing when we get a house. I did like this outfit one time, and I really liked how it looked, and I was trying to recreate it. Yeah, so it was a crop top. You know, I love my crop
Yeah.
tops. And it had like stitching in between the boobs, like going down.
Oh my God, I know the shirt that you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's long
Yeah.
sleeves.
Yeah, it's black, right?
Yeah, and so I took that shirt and I put it on, and I put one of my cut off band tees on the top of it. So I had like a little bit of skin showing, but like not like my full like stomach. And I really like that style, so I wanted to like recreate it some more, but it would only work with very select band shirts that I have, because I cut them all at different sizes. So I wanted to redo that look, but when I was looking and I wasn't finding any like long sleeve crop tops that I was liking, so I thought about like, okay, like I could just make it, because I took sewing when I was in like middle school, so like I know how to do it. I would have to like refresh on it. And then that led me to thinking of like making different like merch options for the podcast, and because I've been like drawing up different designs and stuff, and like things that I like for the podcast. And like I was thinking about doing like stickers and some hoodies, because I love my hoodies, and also crew necks because I'm like always cold.
You are. I think sometimes it was like barely 70 out and you stood in the shade and you were like, your teeth were chattering. I'm like, it's a beautiful April day. What are you doing chattering? Like, what's happening?
Oh yeah, I get cold stupid easily. And me and my husband used to joke when we were working. We would go outside on our breaks and it'd be sunny out, and I would like have to go stand in the sunlight so I could heat up like a lizard does under a heat lamp. It's insane. I'll have my teeth chattering like walking through a mall. It's ridiculous.
And definitely, if you do stickers, I will be your number one supporter. I love me a good sticker.
Yeah, cuz I have these like blank notebooks that I want to put stickers on, and I was able to use like some of the stickers that I have and like decorate those ones, but I quickly ran out.
Are you the type that's afraid to use them because you want to keep them? Like, I'm like that
Yes.
too sometimes. Oh, this one's too cute to peel back.
Well, it wasn't always that I wanted to keep them, but I just never wanted to put them on anything that like was eventually like going to get thrown away.
And it's there forever.
Yeah, and so like I wouldn't want to put them on like water bottles, because I would eventually like stop using water bottles, and I just would never put stickers on anything, so I would just keep them. But now I have all these naked notebooks that I want to be able to put stickers on and decorate them. So, back to your question, like me and my husband, like we want kids, but I also want to have like the space for them, which is another reason why like I want to have a house, and I want to be like financially set to where I can start actually like supporting the child.
Yeah, before you start building a family and you want to be able to support the child.
Yeah, like I've always wanted to make sure like I had the money for a kid as well. But our cousin, the last time that I saw him, when I ended up surprising him before he ended up leaving, we were all hanging out, we were talking, and he ended up mentioning when we're gonna have kids.
Oh, like sticky.
Yeah, and he brought up that, you know, not everything's always gonna end up being perfect, and like sometimes things like just happen, and I'm like, yeah, I guess.
It's interesting that our cousin said that because my mother-in-law kind of said the same thing. They've been asking us, well, everybody's waiting for this baby. We've been together so
I
long
would make
and
cute
we
ass
got
kid.
Thank you. That's what everybody says. And we've been married a little over 3 years now. And my husband knew going into this that I never wanted kids. I wasn't like a no closed door on it, but I was like, if it doesn't happen, I'm totally fine with that. I was never like a kid person. I love kids. I love to make baskets and things for your kids, for people's kids. I love to treat them. Like my neighbors' kids run down the street all the time. I give them cookies. Like like I'm that type of house where like everybody's welcome, but like me on my own, I don't know. He always kind of wanted kids, so now I'm more open to the idea. Maybe we'll start trying, but it never will be the right time. Like you can say, because I had goals. Like we wanted to get through a certain amount of years together, and now that we're in our house and we're both very secure in our jobs, we're like, okay, maybe we'll start a family. And he's been ready for a long time, but I wanted to lose a certain amount of weight, which I've slowly been reaching my goal. And I want to do all these other different things. And I'm like, I want to be around a certain time of year so I could take off time at work. And then his mom was like, it doesn't work that way. Like when it's gonna happen and when it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen. And you can't,
Yeah,
try to factor in all these things into it. So I mean
yeah.
he's not
I
wrong.
Yeah, I know he's not wrong, and neither is your mother-in-law. But I was just like, I want. Maybe I can't get everything, but I at least like I want to have space for the kid, and that's like my big thing. So hopefully I could just have that, and then we can potentially maybe start. But that's still some time away. As for this podcast, I definitely still want to be doing it, even if it's like just for me. Like, I really enjoyed having this space and this time to kind of just like be by myself and like figure out what I want to say and what I want to talk about and, you know, thinking about it and I've come to really enjoy that this is just like a space that's just for me and it really allows me to just kind of talk about whatever I want to talk about. And it kind of challenges me to kind of get like introspective with myself and kind of like think about things a bit differently and think back on my past and stuff and have different like realizations about it and I've really just enjoyed it, so it's nice to just have a space that's just kind of for me and I can just kind of do what I want with it.
I think it's so therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say therapeutic too, I just mean like, it's so good to like talk about things and like you just get to sit there, like you said, it's your own space, it's your own time. You can do whatever you want with this time. You can say whatever you want with it. I think that's a really beautiful thing and a really beautiful take on it too. And like your listeners kind of know like where you're coming from. And I think it's good that you're giving yourself an outlet to speak about things. And you're also giving maybe someone that's listening something to think about or listen to as well. Like if they're going through the same thing, if they can relate to you or like, okay, I'm glad that she touched on this topic today because I was feeling the same way. So I love that. I'm so happy for you in that sense that you get to do this and it's slowly growing and you're making it your own.
Yeah, I really thank you. I really do enjoy it and something that I will definitely credit my therapist for. Shout out to her if she ever listens to this. But she really kind of gave me or like showed me the power of talking about it. And it doesn't always have to be about like my healing journey and I don't think that like everything that I go with and will end up having to be or like will end up being on the podcast, but just she showed me that there's just power in talking about it. Like maybe I'm not going to go into specific details about very specific things, but I can still end up finding a way to talk about it generally just so I can get it out. And not everything is going to end up going on the podcast, but even if I just have to grab one of my journals and just write it down so that way it's just out of my brain and out of my head and I have that power to talk about it. And sometimes it doesn't have to be anything related to like trauma or healing. It could just be like thoughts or ideas that I had as a kid that I just never was able to like voice aloud. So like this gives me an opportunity to just talk about those kind of things too. This podcast really just kind of lets me get all my thoughts out like whenever I need to. Oh, like speaking of thoughts, do you have an inner monologue?
Oh yeah, sometimes. She's not very nice.
Yeah, I don't.
What?
Yeah, I don't have one. Like my husband has one and our girlfriend has one, but I just like they asked me about it, but I'm like no, I don't have one.
Nothing's running it up there. Nothing's
Like, I'm one of the rare creatures that have a nothing box. I could just think about nothing.
Oh god, no. I am an overthinker at like there's some times where I overthink. I'm not lying. I literally don't remember if I've washed my hair because I've been in the shower thinking about my whole day and over worrying about things. And I'm like, okay, did I shampoo it? Did I conditioner it? So then I end up washing my hair twice because I can't remember if I did or not because I'm so deep in thought going inside myself. And I'm like, I wish I could think about nothing. I cannot do that.
Yeah, I have the power to think about nothing. And it's funny because there are times where my husband will tell me that I'm scary when I'm in my nothing box. He's like, "You look like you're about to murder the planet in under 30 seconds and just feel nothing." And that's usually when I'm feeling such an intense level of anger that my brain just goes, "Okay, shove her in the nothing box because we just need to let her feel this one out." And I've said this on the podcast before, and I'll probably keep saying it because it's so true, but you will always know what I'm thinking. Well, more like you always know what I'm feeling because either my face will say it or my mouth will. So
Yeah, you
even
wear
if
your emotions.
I
Definitely
do.
do.
I definitely wear my emotions, and you can always just see what I'm feeling. And so the nothing box does come in handy when I'm feeling such intense emotions like that because it just goes put her in there because it's not a mind thing right now. It's a body thing. And I think that something that a lot of people struggle with is they try to intellectualize their emotions instead of feeling them. But that's not how emotions are supposed to be processed. Like people will, they'll be like, "Oh, like this makes me sad," or "I'm sad because of this," but they're not actually letting their body feel the sadness. They're just trying to keep it locked in their mind of like, "Oh yeah, like I'm sad," and like put a label on it, but it's like you need to allow your body to process that emotion. And like over time, I feel like I've gotten really good at understanding that my emotions have to be felt. And I've realized that I just need to sit and be with my emotions. The quicker I let that happen, the faster that the emotion will end up passing. Some people will need to catch up to me feeling my feelings, but I have learned to just give them their space. But in times where I'm not in high emotional situations, like I'm just like doing like normal day-to-day stuff, like my brain is normally just like really quiet. Like the way that I describe it to like my husband is like I have thoughts. I don't just sit there and think about nothing all day. Like I have thoughts that come into my brain, but it's like a shooting star, like they just shoot across my forehead or like across my consciousness. And if I'm curious about it or I want to expand on it more, then like I start thinking about it and I start going into specifics about it. So it's almost like it's a switch that I can turn on and off. I'm able to like start like getting into the details and stuff like that.
God, what is that like? Even sitting here with you talking this whole time, which I'm thoroughly enjoying, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do when I get off? Okay, gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta do that. I got work. I have to get up at 3 o'clock. Like I'm just constantly going. So maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try to have a nothing box.
Having a nothing box is nice, but at some point your brain will end up calling you out and be like you're spending a little bit too much time in there.
I'm back now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also really easy to use your nothing box as a way to avoid dealing with things. You're like, I'm not dealing with this. I'm just going to go in my nothing box. But eventually you're going to have to come out of the nothing box. And when that happens, then it's very easy to get overwhelmed with all the thoughts that you've been avoiding. And it can get very intense because then it feels like you have like almost like a meteor that like hit you inside like upside the head or something. But I've gotten really good at like finding the balance of when I need to not go into my nothing box to avoid something, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, this came up, we're gonna deal with it. This podcast also gives me a nice challenge for me to come out of my nothing box and to start like thinking about like, okay, like what are we gonna talk about this month, and things like that.
You kind of have no choice. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so like the podcast kind of calls for me to show up.
And if in 5 years you're still doing this, I will still be listening and I will still be supporting you. Maybe I'll be bouncing a baby on one hip and you will too. And we'll be on here talking and doing mother topics. Like you never know.
Oh, I will most definitely be having you back because I will eventually figure out or think of more things that I want to talk to you about, get your perspective on, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. So even if I'm the only one that had a good time, I'll definitely have you back. So as we're wrapping up this episode, is there anything else that you want to ask or mention, or anything that you forgot to say at some point, or anything like that?
No, I'm sure there's things that I wanted to bring up that I'm not even thinking about, but I just want to say that I feel very honored for you to have me on here. And this was a really crazy experience. I'm like, okay, I was really nervous. I was stressing about this all week, but I'm excited that you kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone and brought me on here. And I love, to share this with your audience and stuff. So thank you.
And thank you again so much for coming on. I really enjoyed myself. And one of the other reasons that I wanted to have you on, not just because I love talking to you, but because this episode marks the 1 year anniversary of when I started my podcast. So this was like my own little treat to myself that I got to talk to my cousin.
Shut up, is it?
Yeah.
You put me on a special episode 1 year. Oh, now I feel even more special. Congratulations.
Thank
I had no
you.
idea it had been a year, but that's crazy. I guess because, yeah, because duh, your last episode was episode 11, and here we are, episode 12. So that's a big achievement. Congratulations on that. I feel like I need like a plaque for you or something.
No need for a plaque, but I just want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I had such a great time, and it was such a nice conversation that we had, and I'm so glad that you're my cousin. And I just think the world of you, and I'm so glad and grateful that we were able to do this.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same way about you. You mean the world to me too, and I'm so thankful that you are my cousin and we have such a good relationship now. So, thank you for having me so much.
You're more than welcome, and thank you for being the big sister that I needed.
Thank you for being the one I didn't want. And I definitely would love to come back anytime. So just let me know.
Oh, most definitely, because it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I also want to thank everyone that has listened over the past year. It means so much to me that you all tune in every month to listen to what I have to say. If this is your first time hearing the podcast, I highly recommend going back and checking out the rest of the episodes. I hope everybody has a great New Year's, but please be smart about it. Don't drive if you're having that good of a time. Nothing sours the new year like a tragedy. Have fun, be safe, and be smart. As always, all the negative voices in your head, bitch bet, and I will see you guys next year.